Hey, what's up? So just to recap, a big ass salad is a large, satisfying, delicious salad that you eat for dinner or lunch, depending on what you're into. It fills you up, it makes you feel good, and it scratches the itch of a more indulgent meal while being a salad. Today, I'm gonna show you 3 more variations that have been on heavy rotation in my house over the last few months. First salad up is what Lauren and I call the summer salad because it's full of summertime produce and requires basically 0 cooking. It's perfect for steamy summer nights. To get started, we'll need to make what I call a utility vinaigrette. For that, into a high-sided container, I'll measure 50 grams of champagne vinegar, 50 grams of white distilled vinegar, 15 grams of sugar, 5 grams of salt, 40 grams of nice whole grain mustard, and then 25 grams of shallot. Red onion would also work. Now, I'm gonna grab my immersion blender and drop that in to spin up the base until the shallot and mustard are well broken down. Then I'll grab 325 grams of neutral oil, in this case I'm using white olive, and then I'll stream that in with the mixture spinning to emulsify. Once it's spun in, the dressing should be slightly thickened and opaque like this. From here, I'll spin for another 15 seconds or so to make sure that the mustard is super pureed because that's gonna bring some additional stability to the emulsion. And there we go, a balanced, clean vinaigrette for any and all types of salad. This recipe makes about 10 to 12 salads worth of dressing, and the extra will stay good in your fridge for 2 to 3 weeks. Now, let's prep the veggies for this salad. For that, I'm gonna be using a cucumber, a half bulb of fennel, some sweet corn, and cherry tomatoes. For the sweet corn, I'm just gonna rip off the husk and the silks the best I can. Then, using a chef's knife, I'll slice the kernels right off the cob. I'd say plan on 1 ear of corn for every 2 large salads you're making, and since it's summer here in the Midwest where I live, the corn available to me is of amazing quality and it's super fresh. So I'm gonna be putting this on the salad raw. If you haven't had raw sweet corn, it's juicy, crunchy, and sugary sweet, almost like a sugar snap pea. Mucho recommend. For the tomatoes, I'll lay down a deli container lid, then I'll throw in 8 to 10 cherry tomatoes, and then I'll top that with another lid. Then I'll come in with a serrated knife and cut those in half. And yeah, that's how you cut a bunch of cherry tomatoes at the same time. This is a trick I learned when I needed to cut 20 pints of tomatoes every single night for service in the restaurant. For the cucumber portion of this salad, I'll grab my Japanese mandolin and slice them into thin coins. Let's call it a 1/16 of an inch to be specific. I like these baby cucumbers for this salad because they're a little bit more fork friendly, but if you only have access to a larger English style fat boy, just cut that into quarters before you shave it. The mando stays in hand for the half bulb of fennel. I'll shave that slightly thinner than the cucumber because fennel isn't as juicy or tender as cucumbers naturally, so shaving it really thin is required. And if you don't eat a lot of fennel, I encourage you to try and change that about yourself. Especially raw in salads, fennel is just amazing. It's sweet, it's tender, and incredibly fresh. Next, I'm gonna get the crunchy, nutty texture dialed for this salad. For that, I'm gonna lay out about a half cup or so of pine nuts on a little baby sheet tray, and then I'll throw it into a 350F oven to toast for about 15 minutes. If you wanted to keep your oven off, I totally get it. You could do these on the stovetop, but stay frosty because pine nuts burn super fast. 15 minutes later, I've got a really nice, gentle browning on these nuts, and I'm really excited about how these are gonna pair up with not only the tomatoes, but also the fresh raw corn. Now, let's build this thing. The first thing going in the bowl is gonna be a nice handful of washed Escarole lettuce. Hey, Bri, what is Escarole? Well, it's in the chicories family along with radicchio and endive, and I think of it as like the poor man's frisee. It's a little bit uglier and rough and tumble, and see all that stuff on top? That's super fibrous and tough, and I don't use it, so I lop it off, then I chop the sweeter, more tender core into large chunks like this. Most supermarkets do carry Escarole, by the way. It's usually sitting by the green leafy head lettuces, just a heads up. And for this salad, the Escarole is gonna bring some light, pleasant bitterness, along with some excellent tender crunch. If you can't get it, I would say sub in romaine hearts with a little bit of radicchio. Next, I'll add in a large handful of fresh raw corn. Don't be shy, more is more with raw corn in the B-man's opinion. Then 10 to 12 halves of nice, fresh cherry tomatoes, a grip of my sliced cucumbers, and then a generous sprinkle of shaved fennel. Behind the raw veggies, I'll grab a big sprig of fresh basil, like 4 to 5 leaves, and I'll tear those into smaller pieces and drop them in. I'll do the same for a small bunch of cilantro. In it goes. Then behind the herbs, I'll add in a handful of chunky feta cheese. I've got some nice French stuff here that's really salty and sheepy in the best possible way, and I've got it cut into nice large rustic cubes like this. You guys, this salad is vegetarian, so I add quite a bit of heft to it by going really heavy on the feta. At least 15 cubes in each salad for me. Now behind that, the salad gets a small pinch of salt, then a few hefty tablespoons of my utility vinaigrette. Using the same spoon, I'll give everything a quick toss to get things lightly coated with vin. Lastly, I'll add in a handful of tender arugula and very, very gently toss it all to combine. Adding this last keeps the arugula from getting all beat up and keeps that dressing spread kind of unevenly throughout the entire salad. That level of contrast is very desirable in my opinion. We definitely don't want 45 to 50 of the exact same tasting bite in a row. To garnish, I'll top with more crumbly feta, my toasted pine nuts, and then one more spoon's worth of dressing right on top. And there we go, a clean, light, bright summertime salad that in my house serves as a nourishing, filling dinner that I really look forward to. My dream bite in this salad is getting a bunch of corn, pine nuts, and feta all into the same place at the same time. It's sweet, it's crunchy, and just unbelievably delicious. Try this salad. Now, salad 2 is what I would call Thai shrimp peanut salad. It relies on sweet, briny, poached shrimp and a deeply flavorful peanut dressing. To get started, I'll drop 3 liters of water onto the stove and bring it to a simmer. Once it's boiling, I'll add a strong grip of salt and then 1 pound of shell-on wild-caught Gulf shrimp. Right away, I'll kill the heat and then set a timer for 6 minutes. The method here is to gently poach these shrimps so they don't aggressively curl up and overcook. The only curls I'm interested in doing aggressively these days are these bicep curls in my custom workout plan from the sponsor of this video, Future. Future is a new fitness app that connects you with an online personal trainer who sends you workouts each week, monitors your performance, and messages you to keep you motivated. Future coaches are actually legit personal trainers with serious experience in the fitness industry. My coach, Kyle, for example, has a PhD in exercise physiology and is a champion powerlifter. Way to go, Kyle. After I signed up for the app, my new friend Kyle and I had a quick intro call to talk about fitness, and from there, he developed a workout plan based on my personal goals. Kyle and I still talk weekly. He sends me new workouts and checks in on my progress, and I message him back with questions and send him videos to check on my form. Usually, these exercises involve some weightlifting at the YMCA where they have everything, but if you don't have a gym membership, your Kyle can develop a plan based on whatever gear you might have access to. So to get a workout plan that's built for you and keeps you motivated, go to tryfuture.co/Brian Lagerstrom to get your first month for $19. That's cheaper than most gym memberships, and it's very worth a try. I'm currently in the best shape of my life, and I've only missed like 4 workouts in 10 months. The link is in my description below. Thank you, Kyle, and thank you, Future. After 6 minutes of poaching, I'm going to drain off the water and then give these shrimps a quick spritz with some cold tap water to cool them down. Nothing too crazy, 15 seconds will do the trick, and then I'll flip them into a bowl and throw them into the fridge to cool while I make the dressing for this salad. That's going to be a spicy Thai-inspired peanut dressing. To make it, I'll grab a high-sided container and combine 90 grams of soy sauce, 45 grams of sesame oil, 90 grams of rice vinegar, 60 grams of sugar, 1 medium garlic clove that I've cut in half so it purees easier. Then I'll grab a small knob of ginger and slice that thinly. There's no need to peel if you slice it this thin. It's all going to be pureed super well in a second, so no big deal. In that goes, then I'll add in 150 grams of peanut butter. Preferably unsweetened natural stuff that is just peanuts, but if all you have is Jif on hand, don't sweat it. Just leave out a little bit of the sugar. Now the immersion blender goes in and I'll spin everything until it's well combined and the peanut butter, ginger, and garlic are 100% broken down. Oh, and I forgot, add in 30 grams of sriracha or sambal sauce for some heat. Spin that in and there we go. An incredibly dynamic, bright, flavorful dressing that on its own is honestly almost too flavorful. It needs some salad greens to mellow it out. Back to the shrimps. These are nicely cooled down at this point, so I'm gonna rip off that outer shell. The way I got these ready for the pot, by the way, was to just use some scissors to cut them down the back and then remove that poopy thing. That's how you take just a straight up shell on raw shrimp and make it, quote, easy peel. Once these are peeled, I'm gonna cut them into 3 to 4 bite-sized pieces. 1 pound of shrimp is gonna yield enough for 4 to 6 salads. Next, the vegetables. I've got 1 cucumber, a carrot, some Boston bibb lettuce, and some green cabbage here. For the Boston bibb, I simply cut the head in half and then cut that half into strips. I wouldn't say it's shredded, but it is cut pretty thinly. For the cabbage, my Mando and I are back at it yet again. I've got 1/4 of a small head here and I'm shaving it pretty thin, much thinner than the lettuce. For the cukes, I'll cut a baby one into thirds and then slice that into planks. From there, I'll julienne that plank into a medium thickness strip like this. This thinner cucumber is gonna mix in with the shredded cabbage a lot better than a shaved coin would. For the carrot, I'm gonna use my trusty julienne peeler to shred it down. doing julienning by hand in general isn't that fun, so I'm going to continue to strongly encourage you guys to buy one of these things. I use it like 3 to 4 times per week. Now to build this salad, I'm going to start with my Boston bibb. A solid handful goes in the bowl. I'll follow that with the same volume of shredded green cabbage, maybe a cup's worth of each of those so far. Then a big grip of shredded carrot, some cucumber, and then same as for the summer salad, I'm going to tear in some fresh herbs, but this time only cilantro. Now I'm going to add in some thinly sliced scallions to add an oniony edge here. That's always fun. Behind that, I'll add in a grip of shrimps, let's call it 3 to 4 ounces worth. And then next, I'll add in a strong pinch of chopped peanuts. To get these ready for the salad, I ran my knife through some store-bought, pre-toasted, pre-salted peanuts, and then used my fine mesh strainer to sift out the dusty, smallest particles. This makes for a much more pro-texture situation in the salad because that dusty stuff tends to make the salad kind of sandy. Lastly, I'll add in 2 spoonfuls of my peanut dressing and then give everything a nice, gentle tossing to get things coated. I'll give it a taste to gauge dressing level, and that's great. It's well covered, but not swimming in it. Now I'm going to move this salad into my bowl and then finish with some additional peanuts and another heavy drizzle of peanut dressing to finish. You guys, this salad is very textural. The raw cabbage and carrots team up with the salty peanuts to bring a whole bunch of different types of crunch. The dressing is pungent with ginger. It's salty, it's sweet, spicy, and the peanut butter brings an almost miso-like umami-ness that's real dope. A salad like this makes me feel slightly more alive because it's vibrant, it's full of life, and afterwards I feel full, but not in a way that makes me feel tired and regretful. What more could you want in a BAS? Okay, last salad is the most craveable and comforting of the 3. That's the buffalo chicken salad. To get started, I'll need to quickly bust out some buttery, garlicky croutons. For that, I'll need a 1-pound loaf of stale rustic bread. This is just a generic take and bake from my local grocery store, and it's plenty good enough to just turn into croutons. I'll remove all the crust on the outside, then I'll cut the loaf into 1-inch slices, then I'll dice those slices into roughly 1/2-inch cubes like this. The cubes go into a medium bowl, then I'll add in 75 grams or just over half a stick of butter, a strong pinch of garlic powder, and then a small pinch of salt, and I'll jump into the bowl and toss everything to coat. And that looks pretty good, but I think it needs a little bit more fat, so I'll squirt in another 30 grams of neutral oil or so, make that up with butter if you want, and now I'll load these onto a sheet tray and then into a 325F oven to bake for 25 minutes. While those toast, I'm going to grab a 10-inch nonstick pan and drop it on my stove over medium-high heat. While that preheats, I'm going to grab 1 pound of boneless, skinless chicken thighs. I'll salt both sides liberally and mention that you could use breasts here if that's what you prefer. I almost always have thighs in my fridge though, so that's me. Once my pan is nice and hot, now I'm going to add in a long squeezer of neutral high smoke point oil, and then I'll add in all 6 of my salted thighs. Right about now, you're probably thinking, hey Bri, that's a very crowded pan. Isn't that going to steam instead of sear? Well, no. This pan was deeply preheated before I put anything in it, and I'm going to cook these thighs on one side for basically the whole time. My goal is to get one side very nicely browned and deeply crisped up, and that is going to take about 10 full minutes. After about 10 minutes on the first side here, I'm going to come back and peek at the sear. Golden brown, check. Crispy looking, check. So I'll flip it over, then the other 5, and then I'll cook these on the back side for 1 to 2 more minutes. After 3 minutes on the back side, I'm going to scoot these over to a plate to let them rest while I finish prepping everything else. They look awesome, by the way. They're going to be super juicy and crispy, and that crispiness is going to sub in some ways for the more traditional fried buffalo chicken. If you're not concerned with health or calories here, you could just go to the store and buy some frozen chicken tenders and throw those in the oven, and boom, there you go, buffalo chicken salad. But you know, this is like not that type of video. Next, let's make the dressing. I'm calling this one Buffalo Ranch because it's essentially my buffalo sauce recipe from previous videos with oil instead of butter, and I sneak in a few ranch dressing components to make it more saladable. To make it, I'll combine 1 large egg's yolk, 10 grams of wort, 150 grams of Frank's hot sauce, 1 small garlic clove that I've halved, 5 grams of paprika, 2 grams of salt, 3 grams of onion powder, and 35 grams of sour cream. Next, the immersion blender goes in, and while it's spinning, I'm going to add in 200 grams of neutral oil. Again, I'm using light olive here. Once that's spun in, take a look. It's spicy, creamy, and also somehow ranch dressing. It's dope, and you know it's dope. Just look at it. That is going to taste good, right? Okay, real quick, let's talk veg. I've got a carrot, some celery, Boston bibb lettuce again, and some raw curly kale. For the carrots, I shredded them just like before. The celery is going to get shaved thin on the mandolin, actually just about as thick as the fennel was in the first salad. Then the kale is going to get stemmed out, and then cut quite thin because raw kale that's too thick is not fun or delicious to eat. I'll let my knife do some of the chewing for me ahead of time instead. For the bibb lettuce, I'll cut it in half and then come back and cut those halves into nice large chunks. And the last step before I salad here is to pull out my croutons from the oven. These have been toasting for the better part of a half hour and they're nicely golden brown and fully crisped up. Okay, let's build this thing. I'll add a handful of Boston bibb, then a handful of shredded kale, some shredded carrots, and to round out the veggies, I'll add in a grip of my shaved celery. Buttery croutons goes in, plus a pinch of salt, and then a few tablespoons of my creamy, spicy buffalo ranch dressing. Next, a gentle toss to get things combined but not homogeneous, and then lastly, I'll move this over to a large salad bowl and then top it with 3 to 5 ounces of chopped chicken thighs. Now to garnish, I'll add on some chopped scallions, and then it wouldn't be buffalo without some nice blue cheese crumbled on top. As you guys know, I really don't endorse blue cheese crumbles because they're bitter and they don't taste good. So I always grab a freestanding piece of nice tasting blue cheese when I'm at the store. And by the way, this brand is called Ama Blue, I think. It's a good value and I think it tastes quite good. Lastly, I'll put some celery leaves on top to make things look pretty and then a long drizzle of buff ranch to finish things off. With this salad in particular, I tend to put a shameful amount of dressing on top because buffalo flavored stuff for the B-Man is like a true weakness. I will eat a disgusting amount of it when it's made available. You guys, this one is big ass salad defined in one bowl. It's craveable, real food that can serve as a full meal and fill you up instead of slow you down and make you feel gross. Whether you choose the summer, the Thai, shrimp, peanut, or the buffalo, I think there's some great salads in here for you guys to work into your weeknight rotation. And if you haven't seen BAS version 1 or 2, I'll link to those videos in the description box below. I hope you try these soon. Let's eat this thing.